Dennis Young here. We're back with another Primitive Substance podcast and another great guest, Tim Moore, all the way out from California. He was nice enough to send me his fantastic CDs we'll talk about. And Tim, thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So let's talk about how you got interested in playing the keyboards and what were some of the early music you were listening to.
Sure. Yeah, actually, initially I was a guitarist.
Oh, okay.
I asked for a guitar when I was 9, and that was my big Christmas present. And so I worked on my guitar playing, and then I guess it was right around that era when progressive rock was starting to reach my ears, and I started to become intrigued and interested more and more by keyboards, especially I guess we could say people like Richard Wright and Rick Wakeman particularly.
Oh yeah.
They were calling to me, and so I started taking what I was learning on guitar and transferring it to the piano we had at home. And it was the summer before my senior year in high school. I worked away and saved up enough money to buy my first Mini Moog synthesizer.
Oh, I see that.
So once we gotten that far, I was hooked. That was it.
You can't beat the sound of a Moog. I mean, of all the keyboards, it still has that beautiful tone and texture. And I've tried out a lot of different keyboards, and to my thing, I really feel Moog is, as far as a lead instrument too, it really cuts through.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no question in that. As you were saying, those Moog filters, they have such a resonance to them, a weight to them, that you play other keyboards and it seems so light that it's going to fly away or whatever. You know when you're hearing a Moog synthesizer.
That's true. Now, were you in cover bands in high school, or is that how you started?
No, I didn't really do a lot of that so much until later. I don't know why that didn't really. I mean, I was jamming with people and whatever, but it took a few years for that to happen. And yeah, eventually I did play in some really good cover bands. Actually, this one called Rockslide in particular, that they play. I mean, we played Deep Purple and we played Elton John and all this other stuff. It was great music to cut your teeth on.
Now, you were raised in California, right? You still reside there?
Yes, I do. Northern California, yes.
Okay. So there's a lot of music out there. I mean, especially during that era of progressive music.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, the scene is still pretty good. It's still alive here. There's no question. And it's actually, I think, only gotten better.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a wonderful place to sort of form musical roots.
So let's talk about this first. I got the reissue here, Transformation. Yes. And I hear a lot of King Crimson, Mike Oldfield, Genesis, Kansas, but yet you guys have developed your own style for this. How did this record come about originally?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story, but thank you for that.
Sure.
And I think we are sort of the sum of our influences. But okay, I wrote a book on Yes called Yesstories, which you may be aware of, and
okay.
And in that window where I was writing and doing interviews and so on, I had contact with Patrick Moraz, the great keyboardist who served in the mid-'70s for them.
Oh, okay.
And he was doing, in the mid-'90s, he was doing this tour across America. I think he called it Chat, Coming Home America Tour or something like that. Anyway, if you had his fee and you had a nice piano, he would play for you, as long as it could be arranged in the tour schedule. And so a friend and I scheduled one of these events in the Bay Area. And so we had the show. It was wonderful. Patrick was amazing, of course. And looking back on reflection, I can't imagine how I screwed up the courage to do it or what I was thinking. But on his break, I sat down at the piano and I played. Which, whatever. Anyway, apparently it made an impression, because when I looked for Patrick later, he was talking to his guest, who was Mike Varney of Magna Carta Records.
Okay.
Mike and I started talking, and he said, there's someone you need to talk to. And he hooked me up with Mark Dean. He said, where do you live? Okay, I know just the guy you need to be in touch with. And so he gave me Mark's information. we chatted and talked about direction. We met, and it was pretty instantaneous. You know, I had the workings of Present Moment and Set Sail and songs like that, and I brought them to him, and he heard it, and it was just an immediate click. You know, to have someone on your team, a producer who has those ears and musical vision. He's a multi-instrumentalist. You know, it was such an asset. So, you know, it became a very intense collaborative process between he and I, our influences and what we wanted to express.
I love the song Adrift. That's beautiful. And Shatter is really got this almost crimson beginning sound, and then it goes into your whole feel. So, yeah, Mark is quite a musician.
He is indeed. I've met many talented people in my life, and he's certainly in the upper echelon of that.
Now, how did you find this great singer, John?
Oh,
Zeller?
so Rich Zeller.
Rich Zeller.
Yeah, we were looking. That was actually, I want to say, the most difficult thing about doing this album was finding. We needed a high tenor voice for certain parts, and we just weren't finding. I mean, I went through tons of. I mean, I don't know. I think everyone thinks they can sing, and that's not the case.
That's true. You're right. I've been through that.
Right. So we auditioned a zillion people, and it was getting close to. I mean, we basically recorded everything except the lead vocals. And we had a mutual friend who saw Rich playing in, I think it was like a blues band at the time. He said, "Oh, this guy's amazing. You got to check him out." And when we heard, I guess we heard a demo, we both agreed instantly that he was our guy. And Rich couldn't have been better. I mean, now I listen to his voice and I'm just blown away by his performances.
It's really strong.
Yeah.
Strong. Now, what prompted you to do the 20th anniversary record here, which I'm very happy to show?
Thank you. Greed. It was greed.
Oh, there you go.
No. The end of last year, I was chatting with Mark. He no longer lives in California. He lives in another state now. And so we, you know, touch base on a fairly regular basis. And we were commenting on how, you know, it's coming up, the 20th anniversary. I mean, I'm sure you have some landmark events in your life where you're like,
oh, yeah,
it's been 10 years since that happened or whatever. So we're all trying to wrap our heads around the idea that it was 20 years. And we both said pretty quickly, you know, let's try and honor this music and celebrate it. And what can we do? You know, Mark talked about remastering it, which I was all for. And I thought, I know I can dig in the archives and find all kinds of, you know, fun bonus tracks to be a part of it as well.
What keyboards are you using on this? Because they sound so beautiful.
It's a really extensive list. Actually, on the original release, I listed the keyboards, and I don't have that. Wait, I might have it in front of me. I mean, it goes on and on. It, you know, I had my own keyboards, of course, but then two friends, particularly, who basically had keyboard warehouses, and they were very generous, and they said, "Oh yeah, you know, take whatever you need." So I probably borrowed 10 keyboards from this person, and another 10 over, you know. So it's an extensive list, but I don't think you. Well, here we go. You ready?
Oh yeah.
Korg Triton, Sequential Circuits Prophet 600, a Kurzweil 2500, Alesis Andromeda, Quadrasense, Roland D50, JX8P, Oberheim 600, Matrix 6, and an Ensoniq as well. So it was a pretty extensive list.
No Mellotron in that list?
No, you know, funnily enough, I was never really a big Mellotron guy, and I only got sort of seduced by it later. I was doing a project a few years down the road, and it needed that sound. And so what I found out about Mellotrons, well, first of all, you can't have an actual Mellotron. You have to have samples of a Mellotron because they're just, you know, outrageous beasts, temperamental.
Right.
But with the sample of the Mellotron, if you play it by itself, often it's, for me personally, it's an ugly sound. I don't like it. But if you sit it in with a band, somehow it works.
Yeah.
And so I discovered the joys of Mellotron a few years down the road. I didn't have a love for them at that time.
Now, have you seen the band, The Musical Box, the Genesis cover band?
Indeed.
Now
many times.
they actually use a real mellotron. Did you know that?
Bravo. I
Now
mean,
I spoke to Ian in one of the podcasts. He said they bought it from Genesis. It was used on the Nursery Crime record.
wow. And
Now I don't know how they tour with that, but they
yeah.
do.
I mean, obviously they have to have the techs who can handle
Oh yeah,
working with it and all of that. And probably like many things is, years pass, you learn, oh, okay, we can't do this with a mellotron, and this is the
right.
way we have to pack it, and what
Oh
you can strategize how to do it. But yeah, I'm impressed by the musical box and their attention to detail and authenticity.
yeah.
It's staggering.
It really is. I
Yeah.
saw him last year again, and I saw the Lamb tour show, and then I saw this recent one with opening up with Watchers of the Sky and Supper's Ready. I don't know how they do it. I mean, they have every note to the T.
It's wonderful. I traveled, actually, a friend and I traveled to Canada when they first they had the license to do the Lamb, and at that time they didn't have worldwide rights. So when that was expiring, we didn't know that they would be able to tour it later in America and around the world and whatever. So we flew to Canada to go see it, and it was absolutely stunning. And I felt like I'd scratched that itch, like I didn't need a time machine anymore to go and see Peter Gabriel in 1974.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you did a couple other records after that. 322. You also did this soundtrack just came. Is this new? Also new song?
Yes, that came out last year.
Beautiful record.
Thank you.
I love Mind Games. The cover of John Lennon. How did you think of that? It was a great idea.
Thanks. You know what? I've always been a fan of that song, even I think from its initial release. And a buddy and I, we get together and we'll do Beatles songs and related sort of covers. I did have a band many years ago called After the Beatles, and we played just the solo stuff. And so the song surfaced in that time, and I thought, you know what, I can sing this really well. I mean, I love this song. I get behind the idea of it, and so I recorded it as a cover a few years ago, and I sort of had it on the shelf because I had released a few covers in that window. And when soundtracks came around, I thought, well, this is the place for it.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about your record? Vortex ends the record, but then if you keep it on, like if it's in my car, believe it or not, I still have a CD player.
I do too.
It goes right to Remembrance, and it's nice the way that transitions back to the first song. Was that something you thought about doing, or just?
Oh yeah. It was deliberate. Yeah, I appreciate you noting it and mentioning it. It's kind of nice to have a full circle effect, especially if you're in a position where you listen and it cycles back through.
Yep.
I like that idea. Yeah.
I had to spend $700 to get my CD player fixed in my car, and then I get the CD player and it doesn't work right, so they had to change it out again. But I have to have a CD player in my car to listen to all this music. That's where I really get to listen.
I understand. Yeah, my car it's 11 years old, and one of the reasons I've sort of hung on to it is that.
Now let's talk about this tribute band. The Yes tribute band, is that still happening?
No, that ended. I can't
Parallels, right?
Yeah, Parallels. Yeah, it was a going concern for about 10 years. I think we wrapped up around 2011 or something like that.
Okay.
There used to be a local music paper, and I would thumb through it, and there was musician ads, like there would be like on Craigslist or whatever, and this guy said, well, I'm putting together a Yes tribute band or whatever, and I thought, well, good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
But I decided to call him. He was bassist named Ron, and we had just a little jam, he and I. And it was so good. I remember we were playing The Revealing Science of God, and I thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Explore it. And so we started auditioning people, and it took, again, a long time to get the first lineup, about 6 months or so before we had a lineup that was ready to play out. But it was about, playing music that we love so much and are passionate about, and just the opportunity to share it with others. It was a wonderful, exciting, and lovely, lovely people in the band as well. So, we did it, like I said, for 10 years. And, it seemed like the natural life of a band.
Yeah, it
10
is.
years is actually quite a long time for a band.
True. Now, did you do Close to the Edge, Awaken? Did you do all those songs?
Yeah, Close to the Edge, Awaken, and
Wow.
Gates of Delirium.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, three of their very big epics.
Yeah.
And there were shows that we did all three in the same in the same show. So it was I don't know if you saw her, but there's a version of Awaken that we recorded and we finished up much later. So
I
the
didn't see
Parallel,
that.
yeah, CD came out a few years ago, and I still have contact with John Anderson and Rick Wakeman, and so I sent them the link, and they were both effusive about. I mean, Rick especially said that's the best chess cover I've ever heard. And I thought, okay, that's
Yeah.
it. Please, my 15-year-old self's heart is overflowing. It's such a huge compliment.
Yeah. Have you seen the Band of Geeks?
Yes.
Any of it? Oh, you saw them in person? What'd you think of them?
I really enjoyed it. I saw them. They just came through a few months ago. And well, first of all, I mean, it has to be said that John is just amazing.
I can't believe it. He's like 80 years old and still singing great.
And I mean, it's incredible. I mean, a lot of most of the Yes songs were brought down a half step, and there's no shame in that. And two of them, Awaken and All Good People, were brought down to D. So, but he's 80. I mean, it's crazy. And he did what, 2.5, nearly 3 hours. And the Band Geeks, I know some people want them to be Yes. They're not Yes. They're very
you're
good.
right.
They're very good. I was really impressed by Richie, the bass player, and the keyboardist, Christopher Clark.
Okay.
Both of those guys really, really delivered. It was a hell of a show. So much fun. Yeah. And actually, one of the things I enjoyed so much was they did new stuff. Because the old stuff, I've seen it perform live a lot. So to hear a few new songs, that was good. I'm glad that they did that.
That's great. I mean, they did Gates of Delirium too. That's what I saw on YouTube, that they do a version of that.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, I guess it was the first go round when they were on the East Coast, so I didn't get to see them do that one. But they did Close to the Edge and Awaken.
Now, do you have your own record label, or do you put it out with a record label? How does that work?
Yeah, so initially the first two releases were on Mark's label, Amethyst Edge, and then after that point, I decided to create my own label, Symbolic, and so so everything is released independently.
Okay, it's so hard to sell music these days, though. Yep. I mean, it's not easy unless you're doing a lot of live shows and then you have physical product there.
It's really true. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm driven to create and to make music, but I've seen a big drop off in the last, year or two, particularly. The CDs for the most part are paying they're paying the bills, but it's very different than it once was. Obviously, it's just that's the nature of the business. Like you said, if you're out there touring, you can sell some more CDs. You got your audience right there. They'll get something signed by you or whatever.
Right.
It makes it a bit easier.
Now, you're going to do Prog Fest in October in New Jersey. Do you do that show?
No, I did get invited initially when Transformation was released. Oh, and I can't think of his name. George. He used to run the Rite of Spring Fest.
Right.
He contacted me. He had my CD and he was really impressed. And so we talked about doing a show. And at that time, I don't even know if they're doing that festival anymore. I think it's on hold. But anyway, everybody got a headlining set. So you had to do 90 minutes. Okay. And at that time, again, I didn't have a band. So I'd have to assemble a band to get everyone up to speed on the music. And then, the set I had was primarily Transformation. So I would have had to, create another 30 minutes of other music. It wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, if it comes my way, yeah, I would definitely seriously consider it. I mean, it's great fun. One of the things on the new album, the Transformation 20th edition, is there's live recordings of us performing songs from Transformation, Present Moment, and Apocalyptic Visions. We do Adrift,
Okay.
and then a fun live version of Dance on a Volcano.
Ah,
And
love that song.
Yeah, it's great fun to play all of it, but to play your own original music, you know, progressive rock with the musicians who can pull it off is a very satisfying thing.
Have you seen Steve Hackett's band?
Oh yes, many times.
Fantastic. I'm going to see him again in October. They're coming around in New Jersey again. So I had a chance to talk to Rob Townsend from the band.
Yeah.
What a great guy. Really generous with his time and, you know, no big attitude, real nice fella.
Yeah. I've seen Steve many times, especially with that lineup, that band. And it's nice that they're doing the Lamb. I know it's Nat Sylvan's favorite Genesis album, so he sings it beautifully. And Steve is another one of those guys who
75 and still hasn't lost a beat.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know what these guys are eating or drinking or what they do, but man,
right? Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah, bless them.
So what's up? You said you're working on some new music, a new electronic project. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's still in a formative stage, but when I was doing soundtracks, that was a project for the very first time. I did everything on that album by myself, except, I mean, I didn't write Mind Games, and I co-wrote one other song with a person, but everything else I wrote myself. I played everything, I sang everything, and it was because a project prior to that had fallen apart. And I thought, well, screw this. I'm not going to depend on anyone else. I'm just going to do it all myself. And it was great fun, like rolling out of bed and saying, I'm going to play bass today, or I'm going to do backing vocals or whatever. And so I got a nice taste of that. And then this project came up sort of last second. I wasn't really planning to do the 20th anniversary of Transformation. It came up. And so I spent time, you know, getting it all organized and mixed properly, you know, the bonus stuff and whatever. And in the back of my head, it was saying, you know, I really like the idea of exploring a very keyboard-centric, synthesized album. So now what that may be when it finishes up, I can't tell you, but I have started writing, improvising, recording, and I have a sense of direction, but we'll see where it goes.
We need a good electronic record out there now, you know, with all the garbage out there. I'm sorry to say, you know, laptop music, computer music, you know.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and so I've asked and I've gone to record shops and whatever and got, you know, sort of the latest and greatest. And you know, there's things that I hear that I'm like, okay, well, I see where that's going, or it's useful or whatever. But, you know, the guys who are influenced, well, for me, it would be more like Tangerine Dream and Vangelis and people like that.
Right.
You know, that's more of my influence, my formative kind of influence.
I love Vangelis. He was just so fantastic. Pulsar is one of my favorite all-time electronic records. It's so good. If anybody out there get a chance to listen to that, that'll really zoom you into the music of Vangelis, plus his work with John Anderson.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So what do you feel about modern music and where we're headed next, Tim? Or it's just, who knows, right?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, and I don't know how it is for you, but I don't spend, I mean, if I'm listening to music outside of my own, or, you know, things that I've purchased or whatever, it's typically classical or jazz in the car. And so if it's something newish, it's probably because a friend pressed it on me. So, you know, bands filter in, like, now it's not new. They've been around for quite a while, but a band called Field Music. I don't know if you know them.
No, I don't know
them. Two brothers. They're both brilliant songwriters, very much in that British sort of quirky pop tradition. And they did an album called Plum, which is staggering. It's one of my favorite.
What? Plum?
Plum. Yeah.
Okay.
Field Music. And so, things like that will crop up, occasionally. Adam Holzman, who plays keyboards for Steven Wilson, he and I know him a little bit. He actually did a mix of Awaken, of the version that we recorded. But he put out an album called Truth Decay, which
I like that.
Yeah, a fusion. Have you heard it?
No,
Yeah.
What's it called?
Okay,
Truth
sorry.
Decay?
It's a fusion-y album, and and certainly among the best fusion albums I've heard in many moons.
I got to hear that. So there is a lot of good stuff out there. You just got to weed through the junk.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't really get to hear much pop music. Although Dua Lipa, I don't know if you've heard her music, but a friend of mine who's a producer, he sat me down and goes, check this out. And so it was one of her, and she's a very attractive woman, but she's got a great voice. The songs are well written and the production is immaculate. It's incredible. Okay. So lots of respect for what she's doing. She did one of the Tiny Desk concerts that they do for NPR. And she's got a small band and they're doing it all live, and it's just radiating joy.
That's great. We got to write down these names for me so I can look it up and let the listeners know. But where can we find your music besides Bandcamp?
Well, that's primarily the place to do it now. I was selling on my own website, and I've discontinued that. So that's primarily the place to find it. Yeah, there might be other avenues, but Bandcamp is I think the easiest way. Most independent artists are there nowadays. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody checks websites much anymore. It's kind of an antiquated thing, I have to say. Yeah. It's funny how that changes so quickly.
And I loved MySpace. That was a great site.
It really served a purpose,
Yeah, I had more connections through MySpace, and then when it died out, the connections kind of died out. What happens, Yeah,
I don't know, but it had a sort of brief shining moment. I don't know. Do you know the music of Kevin Gilbert?
Oh yeah, I know him.
Okay, so I was a big Toy Matinee fan and Kevin Gilbert fan, and then of course he died so tragically.
Yeah.
And I didn't know for ages that there was posthumous music, that his estate had found, discovered all of these archives and things. And on MySpace, on his MySpace page, they had 3 songs from Shaming of the True, his big rock opera that he was working on at the time of his death. And I would have never, I don't know how long it would have taken me to find out about this music, but there it was on MySpace, and it was a giant revelation.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I was able to find you on Facebook. I mean, that's the only source I use these days. Instagram, a lot of times nobody gets back to you. It's a weird site. You take a lot of pictures, but that's it.
I think you sort of pick and choose, your social media, because it can just consume you, so quickly.
Oh, you can't be on all the time. Some people are on the computer all the time. I don't know. It's just, I have to be outside. I have to be maybe making music or doing something.
Yeah. You have to find some balance, right?
So, Tim, anything else you want to talk about? I think this was a great interview here.
Oh, thanks.
And you're one of the few that actually sent me music.
Oh,
not many do.
I'm sorry to hear that. That seems like it would be an important thing to do.
It is. It's very important. I got to listen to your tracks in the car, and at home here, but I was able to really focus in on your songs.
Thanks. Well, I'm curious, in your musical background, you're a musician as well, right?
Right. Yeah, I played in the 80s kind of post-punk band, liquid percussion, but I always was playing keyboards, electronic. I don't read any music, but I go by sound. So I went through a lot of keyboards, M1s, D50s.
Yeah.
But my problem is I don't keep them. I sell them. Oh. When after I had use with them, I moved. So now I'm buying a few more again. I have a Moog also, this sequential unit. And I just bought this Artura Mini Freak. Have you heard about this keyboard?
I've heard about it. I haven't played
That's
with it.
some neat sounds. I mean, it's not like the old analog days with how beautiful everything sounds, but if you're looking for like some quirky stuff to add to your sound, it's got it.
Yeah, there's a synth. Well, it doesn't help you. You're in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
There's a synthesizer museum in Southern California, and
Oh,
I can't remember. It might just be called the Synthesizer Museum. Anyway, it used to be based here in the Bay Area. It used to be in Emeryville, and I first used their services, I think, on Faithscience, or maybe it was the 3
hmm.
album. But book a couple hours, and they got like every possible old piece of gear you can imagine.
Wow.
And yeah, so you set it up, get a sound you like, let it rip, and so they moved down to LA. I forget exactly where in LA, but the last time I was there, again, I spent another probably 2 or 3 hours playing all sorts of things that haven't been released yet, but some of it ended up on the Soundtracks album.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, there's keyboard stuff on I'm blanking.
So you were able to use their keyboards?
Yes.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, I mean, I suppose you could book time and just look or whatever, but it's there to be used. So I use stuff on Vortex. That's one of them. Just great old pieces of gear that you can fiddle around with, and like CS80s, Yamaha CS80s, which are rare. I mean,
Oh, yeah. That's
unicorns now.
a beast.
It is a beast.
Oh, very expensive beast.
Very much. A buddy of mine has one in the Bay Area, and he was trying to get it appraised for insurance purposes, but he couldn't because if you have one, you don't sell it. So it was really difficult. I mean, people that have working CS80s, they hold on to them for love, money, whatever.
Now, I think Alicia's made a keyboard. I forget the name of it now. Back in that time frame, it wasn't out for long. I can't think of the name, but that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, it's funny how these things come back around. When I bought my Prophet, it was in that window when people were all about digital gear. So I got it for, I think, $200 or $300, something like that.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted them, and it was a great window to buy some old analog gear.
I feel bad that I sold a monopoly Korg I had, and it needed repair. I fixed it, and like a dummy, I sold it for $1,200, and now those things are going for easy over $2,000.
Yeah.
But what a keyboard! Know. Beautiful sound.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Keep in touch here, and send me your links. The pretty much Bandcamp I'll put on the description, and anything else comes up. I want to tell you there is a Prog Festival in October in Rutherford, New Jersey, and I'm going to be talking to a couple of the people that organize that show. Oh. So if you want me to mention your name, if you're interested.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm talking to them next week.
Okay. Well, yeah. Good luck with the podcast. It looks like it's going very well for you.
Here, I've been very lucky that people have been giving their time to come on and talk, and it's been quite a learning experience.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
All right, Tim. Good luck with your music, and keep it going.
Okay, man. Have a good one.
Take it easy, Tim. Thanks a lot.